in Ganasan, a language spoken in the very northern language, Ojibwe, which is an American Indian language. These just guys don't use temperature words at all, in addition to the straightforward temperature situations, which is quite interesting. Also, these hot peppers and hot whatever, again, this is of course not as universal as you might think. I don't know what you have in your languages. In Russian, peppers are not hot, they are sharp. In Swedish, they are normally strong. And also, again, Henry. So you know these two metaphors. So anger is hot, and warm is warm feeling, right? But what do you do if the language does not distinguish between warm and hot? You have to decide, right? Make up your mind. So what Henrik and his author Nassim Haider have suggested is that in Padula, both metaphors will use the same word, but in different combinations. So he's an angry person, he's a hot, warm person, and he is generous. Again, he has a hot, warm heart. So depending on what connotations you have. And this is not at all unusual. And then you have, okay, so for us Europeans, some languages can show unexpected extensions. So it's not warm, which is pleasant, but it will be cold or cool, which is pleasant. Felix Hammer gives this example, I think from Erwin, from some other languages. So all these combinations with cold, stomach become cold, it's calm, how peace be comforted, there are no values, all that. So coldness is associated with pleasantness and not warmth. So we can say that here is this extended meanings and where temperature terms come. This is a very underexploited domain, and especially for people working with metaphors and saying, making all these conclusions about what is universal and not universal on the basis of English, Spanish, and German. I mean, they'd better, look into a few other languages. So to conclude, if we look at these linguistic temperature systems across languages, we find that there are various factors that shape them. So one group of factors are of course biologically rooted factors, universal factors. So human perception, so physiology, complicated thing. Now, genetic factors, and now I don't mean, human genes, but linguistic, so genetic relations between languages. In many language families, you find that the temperature terms are very stable. So in language after language, in Indo-European languages, for instance in Germanic languages or in Slavic languages, you will find the same cognates. So the same cognates that have been used for a couple of thousand years, which does not mean that they mean the same. You recognize the roots, but they will mean different things. You have also language context. So languages can be influenced by how either they just borrow their words, or they can develop the same polysemy patterns, for instance, of these metaphors. So one of the examples is cold. So in many African languages you have this polysemy between hot and quick. But in a subgroup of languages you also have cold and slow. And this seems to be areally restricted. What else do we have? Well, environment, climatic factors, so how many different words you have, of course, talking about ambience, but also the metaphors, so this cold stomach and all that. I don't think that will work very well, let's say, for Greenlandic. So cold stomach, meaning something positive. I don't think they will accept that, because it's very cold there. And then social cultural practices, and you see this abundance of temperature words for water, which can be connected to different practices. Yes, that's it. Okay. So yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for a very engaging engaging in the interesting lecture. I'm sure that it has set many of us thinking, you know, about what happens in the various languages that we know. So it is time for discussion. Before that, I saw our provost walking. Is he still here or is gone? Okay, he's stepped out. We appreciate his presence. Yeah, so it's open for discussion, comments, questions,
And
queries. Yes.
You looked at how the domains, and you looked at how expression was interpreted. I'm not saying this right. How, what kinds of expression are used for what are used for as temperature expression? I mean, does that mean that you looked at the syntactic structure of them as well?
yes.
I'm thinking, for example, the fact that I think one of the examples Amaka gave, and I can think of them in Ghana as well, the basic polar terms for our verbs,
Yes.
which would probably be in the perfective if you're going to make it stative. They talk about a state. So did you look at what kinds of syntactic structure? I mean, not just sort
Yes,
of
yes,
metaphors, but
yes,
syntactic
yes.
structures.
Yes, I mean, it's a whole big domain, and I still need to work on the generalizations. But so this is one of those things that people have been doing, looking at what parts of speech you are using and how these different distinctions are used, expressed by morphosyntactic patterns. And you find quite interesting asymmetries there. For some languages, I mean, when I started working on that, I heard, you know, I was wondering whether adjectives would be, temperature terms as adjectives would be very restricted. So that was the presumption I had, more or less, that this will be extremely restricted across the languages of the world. But then it turned out that most of the languages will use either adjectives or stative verbs. So, and in some languages, exactly, I mean, you will have stative verbs, and different tenses can be used for whatever you have there. And there is also an interesting asymmetry that for personal feelings, you will very often have verbs, whereas for the others frames, you will have something different. So what you find in quite a number of languages that for tactile, you will have adjectives. For personal feelings, you will have verbs. And then for ambience, you might have nouns. So like coldness is here, or coldness catches this place. So this kind of interplay.
Yes.
When I was in undergrad, I had a teacher who told me that African languages had no way to express future, distant future, or distant past. Of course, she spoke no African languages, and at that time I was sitting there, I knew how to say from that, my question is, when we look for universals, sometimes like in our own linguistic analysis, we do hedges to avoid saying that this is true 100% of the time, or that this can never occur. I'm wondering about where is there room for the hedges, like affection is warmth, whereas in Wolof, some of hold up, I say, like my heart is cool, and that's, you know, that type of, like, is there, as we are still looking for the universals, is there room to say, this is what we know, but the languages that aren't documented, and then also, like the people of Tasmania, all of them were wiped off of the face of the planet. We don't really know the content of their language. It may go against the things that we say human beings can't do or aren't possible in human language, or there are languages we just haven't gotten to. Is there room for that doubt in universals?
Yes, it's a very good question. And in fact, I don't believe in universals in a way. So I think the more people, so people into typology are very, very, very cautious about universals. Now that's what I
Yes.
try to hint at, right? So ideas about or proposals for universals come very often from other quarters. So as I said, cognitive linguists, they suggest universals. Generative grammarians, they will suggest universals. Whereas we will just very often talk about tendencies with all kinds of hedges.
Thanks.
Yes, and as I also mentioned somewhere in the beginning of this lecture, the more we work with different groups of languages, the more we notice that there are sort of clusters of patterns which are restricted to particular areas or to particular languages. So it's quite fun. A colleague of mine had, well, he had a kind of quiz for his students, or for those people who were in the classroom. He said, okay, if the language has these and these and these and these and these properties, can you guess from where this language comes? So we had a few examples, and you're really sort of looking at 10 or 15 properties. You can say, well, yes, that's what we have. So it's quite instructive in a way, right?
Yeah, we have time for a few more questions.
So what I want to say is that you are seeing all these fantastic languages, and there's room for a lot of research on whatever you point at. And lexical typology is one of the directions where you can go infinitely.
Yes, Dr.
At what point do you dismiss this notion of universals cold? Is it that when you just come across one queer language from any section of the world that it doesn't conform with those universals, you just dismiss language universals as applicable?
Well, you know, in typology, there's a whole elaborate, sophisticated system of how you talk about universals. So they are absolute universals, so something that will hold for all languages. And these absolute universals, they're not particularly sexy, I would say. So, I mean, something like all the languages will have sound. Wow. Apart from sign languages, or all the languages, I don't know. There are no languages that have words longer than 50 syllables, you know, something like that. So these are quite trivial things. So this will be absolute universals. Then you have some kind of implicational universals. So if a language has this, then it will have that. And these are slightly more sophisticated. I'm more, what do you call it? Benign. I'm more likely to believe in this. And then there's something which is called statistical universals. So we would say like, this is preference, a statistical preference, that this pattern will occur. And these are fine in a way. So that's what I believe in. Of course, if you just discover one language which disconfirms everything you have seen in 1,000 languages, you will see that, okay, this is one exception. But, yeah. So we get more and more information, yeah.
Yes, Dr. Dia.
Thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed your talk.
Thank you.
Just a small question though. In your database, is there a language which uses just morphology like affixes to express temperature?
This is a very good question. Yes, Ojibwe is an American Indian language which seems to do something like that. So it has some prefixes and suffixes which distinguishes some values, temperature values, and this is quite tricky. So, so most of these distinctions will not be in the root, but in the inflectional morphology or whatever it is.
Okay, but this is not widespread, obviously.
No, no, or we don't know. I mean, from the American languages, so Ojibwe is the only Northern American language I have, and then I have a few from South American. They are different. Yeah, and then yes, there's also something in West Greenlandic. There's a kind of incorporating structure, for some, so you can, if you freeze, like if you're, there's something with some body part which is freezing, you use a specific morphological structure for that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
But there is a basic 10 word, right?
That's the question, that's the question. It's not quite clear.
Okay, I think Prof has a follow-up question.
I was just going to add something to the American Indian one. I once took a course in Canadian Eskimo, and it's extremely agglutinating, so that almost everything except one root, which might be the verb, I think, or a noun actually, is, I mean, the head noun, the subject, or the whole thing. Everything else is an affix. So I think you'd have to be careful how you, I mean, they must have a distinction between lexical and non-lexical affixes.
Yes,
So you
yes.
have to be careful.
Yeah,
in what
yeah.
you're-
For West Greenlandic, they do have sort of roots also for different temperatures, but there's this particular pattern which is used for freezing body parts. But for Ojibwe, this seems to be more complicated.
Okay, yes, we are happy. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much once again for such an interesting lecture and the discussion that it generated. So I'd like to thank all of you once again for coming. Let me introduce Dr. Henrik Lidegren, who is also visiting from Stockholm University. Yes, and we have our former Pro VC, Professor Sam, who is hiding at the back. He's on sabbatical leave, but he's here with us today, and we appreciate his presence. Thank you very much. He's shy, so he doesn't know. Okay, and finally, I want to thank Dr. Pan and his team for putting this together, and he has a few announcements for us.
All right, so thank you again for coming. The next one will be on the 30th of this month. 30th, not September, October. 30th September, we'll have another lecture. We'll confirm, we'll send a notice ahead of time, and I hope that you will come.
30th October.
Did I say that?
Yes, you said September.
All right. I'm going to correct it. 30th October. All right. Announcement: we're providing refreshments for you. The senior members, you pick some from this, and there is a table outside there for the students as well. So we thank you again for coming. We'll see you on the 30th. And Maria, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, really.
I'm sure that the research on temperature change will start. You've really provoked us, and we are happy for that.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you again for coming.